We get the breaking news in the sports world, and it's another honor for our Las Vegas superstar. She's the MVP, and now A'ja Wilson is Time's Athlete of the Year. Check it out. This is the cover that they just posted on social media just moments ago with quite the majestic photo shoot.
All right, so get this. Time magazine, in what can only be described as a head-scratching move, just crowned A'ja Wilson their Athlete of the Year. And somehow, in a narrative twist nobody asked for, they managed to spin what should have been her incredible moment of well-deserved recognition into yet another exhausting Caitlyn Clark controversy. The very article that was supposed to be a glowing tribute to A'ja's absolute dominance on the court instead dedicated a significant chunk of its precious space to taking completely unnecessary shots at Caitlyn Clark, who, let's not forget, they themselves named Sportswoman of the Year just a year prior. Naturally, the internet absolutely erupted. Fans are beyond furious, and Time magazine is now getting utterly dragged across every social media platform for spectacularly missing the entire point. This wasn't merely a case of clumsy journalism. It was a masterclass in self-sabotage, an own goal of epic proportions. It really makes you wonder, do you honestly think the media deliberately manufactures these kinds of Caitlyn Clark controversies just for clicks and engagement? Or are they genuinely just so completely out of touch with the pulse of sports fans and the current climate of women's basketball?
So then we dive deep into it, and it seems like there's some paragraphs from this article that put down Caitlyn Clark in order to prop up A'ja, which is crazy because if you guys remember, Caitlyn Clark was Time's Sportsperson of the Year just last year. So I haven't actually gone into detail reading these.
Let's talk about what actually happened. Now, let's be absolutely crystal clear from the jump. Time magazine published an article announcing A'ja Wilson as their Athlete of the Year for 2025. And there's no denying that A'ja absolutely, unequivocally deserves every single bit of recognition. I mean, think about her year. She clinched her third WNBA MVP award, a monumental achievement in itself. She then led the Las Vegas Aces to yet another championship, proving her leadership and clutch performance. And if that wasn't enough, she dominated on the global stage at the Olympics, effortlessly taking home the tournament MVP title. We're talking about one of the most dominant, influential, and undeniably talented players in the entire history of women's basketball. This should have been her moment to bask in the glory, to truly shine without any distractions. But instead, bafflingly, Time magazine seemed to make a conscious editorial decision to needlessly drag Caitlyn Clark into the spotlight for absolutely no discernible reason, completely hijacking A'ja's rightful celebration.
At an opportune time. In 2024, Caitlyn Clark's rookie season helped the WNBA hit milestone TV and attendance figures, but Clark's emergence created a toxic, racially divisive narrative that she was almost singularly responsible for salvaging a league whose foundation had been built by mostly Black player base. I'm gonna stop right there because, like I said, Caitlyn Clark was Time's Sportsperson of the Year last year, and in that article, she was asked multiple times about these narratives around Caitlyn and the racial divide that happens in America, and specifically around women's basketball. It has gotten so insane, and she has denounced it so many times. She said it in the Times article that she doesn't want her name to be used for these different negative and divisive things that it's used for, and the fact that Time magazine named her Sportsperson of the Year in 2024, and then in 2025 turn around and put something like this in an article, by the way, you guys, that is supposed to prop up A'ja. This is A'ja's moment to shine.
And here's where things really get problematic. The article, which again was ostensibly about A'ja Wilson, actually included several paragraphs that explicitly singled out Caitlyn Clark and this nebulous, often weaponized, toxic, racially divisive narrative that has supposedly coalesced around her. They went on to write about how Caitlyn's meteoric emergence somehow created this narrative, suggesting she was almost singularly responsible for salvaging a league whose foundation had been built by a mostly Black player base. And then they proceeded to quote A'ja Wilson herself, expressing how this very storyline bothered her and how she felt like history was being erased for a minute. As you can imagine, fans across the board immediately reacted with a resounding "Wait, what?" The overwhelming question became, why on earth is this specific, divisive commentary inserted into an article that is explicitly designed to celebrate A'ja Wilson's extraordinary achievements? And you know what's even more interesting? Something that adds crucial context to this whole mess. Caitlyn Clark was in fact Time magazine's very own Sportswoman of the Year and in that particular article, she was directly asked multiple times about these exact same charged narratives, about race, about perceived division, about people using her name to push agendas that she does not support. And every single time without fail, she unequivocally shut it down.
I feel like I always have had really good perspective on everything that's kind of happened in my life, whether that's been good, whether that's been bad. And then obviously coming to the WNBA, like I've said, I feel like I've earned every single thing that's happened to me over the course of my career. But also, I grew up a fan of this league from a very young age. Like, my favorite player was Maya Moore. Like, I know what this league was about. And like I said, like, it's only been around 25 plus years. So I know there's been so many amazing Black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them, I think, is very important. And that's something I'm very aware of. And like I said, like, I try to just be real and authentic and, you know, share my truth. And I think that's very easy for me. Like, I'm very comfortable in my own skin. And that's kind of been how it is.
She's been incredibly consistent, folks. Caitlyn has stated repeatedly and emphatically that she does not, under any circumstances, want her name or her platform to be used for divisive purposes. She has made it abundantly clear that she deeply respects and honors all the players who came before her, acknowledging their foundational contributions to the WNBA. She has explicitly stated that the WNBA's phenomenal growth is not the result of one individual, but rather a collective team effort involving many talented athletes. She has been absolutely crystal clear about where she stands on these issues, leaving no room for misinterpretation or ambiguity.
A'ja Wilson, congratulations, one-time Athlete of the Year. Now, this would have been a great moment for A'ja Wilson to talk about her accomplishments, etc. But what did A'ja Wilson want to do? She wanted to take shots. She wanted to fire off and get her subs in.
So this begs the ultimate question. Why is Time magazine, the very same esteemed publication that lauded and honored Caitlyn Clark just last year, now seemingly throwing her directly under the bus in an article that's supposed to be celebrating someone else entirely? Let me tell you, that's not what genuine ethical journalism looks like. That, my friends, is pure bait. That's a deliberate attempt to manufacture drama and controversy where none existed or needed to exist. And frankly, it's profoundly disrespectful to both Caitlyn Clark and perhaps even more so to A'ja Wilson. Because here's the undeniable truth. A'ja didn't ask for any of this messy drama. She certainly didn't utter a single negative word about Caitlyn Clark. No, the journalist, in what appears to be a calculated decision, simply chose to frame this article around manufactured controversy, instead of focusing on the pure, unadulterated celebration of A'ja's unparalleled success. Let's actually dissect the exact quotes from the article itself. They wrote that Caitlyn's rocket ship run arrived at an opportune moment and genuinely helped the WNBA hit milestone TV and attendance figures. Now, objectively speaking, that statement is unequivocally true, backed by irrefutable data. But then almost immediately, they followed it up with this incredibly problematic line about how her emergence created a toxic, racially divisive narrative. And it's like, hold on just a second. Caitlyn Clark herself absolutely did not create that narrative. The media outlets did, certain vocal segments of fans did, and yes, even some politicians weighed in with their own agendas. But Caitlyn, she has been actively, consistently, and forcefully trying to distance herself from that divisive rhetoric from day one, ever since she burst onto the national scene.
Possible. This is A'ja's time to shine. Why are we even bringing this up? Why are we bringing up the toxic, racially divisive narrative around Caitlyn Clark that she had nothing to do with?
And the sheer audacity of Time magazine, bringing this contentious and wholly irrelevant topic into an article specifically about A'ja Wilson, is quite frankly insulting. Because let's be absolutely clear, A'ja's extraordinary accomplishments have precisely nothing to do with Caitlyn Clark. A'ja won her MVP on her own incredible merit. Through hard work and unparalleled skill, she secured a championship on her own merit, leading her team to victory. She completely dominated the Olympics on her own merit, representing her country with distinction. So, with all due respect, why is Caitlyn Clark's name even being mentioned in this article? Why are we even discussing racial division, when the explicit purpose here is to celebrate the undeniable greatness of A'ja Wilson? It simply doesn't make any logical sense. Then the article quotes A'ja saying, "It wasn't a hit at me because I'm going to do me regardless. I'm going to win this MVP. I'll win a gold medal. Y'all can check my resume. It was more so, let's not lose the recipe. Let's not lose the history. It was erased for a minute." And look, I genuinely understand and respect what A'ja is saying here. She's rightfully proud of the rich history of the WNBA. She's incredibly proud of the pioneering players who built this league from the ground up. And she absolutely should be. But here's the fundamental problem. Nobody actually erased that history. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is genuinely claiming that the WNBA didn't exist or wasn't important before Caitlyn Clark arrived on the scene. What people are saying, what the undeniable data actually shows, is that Caitlyn Clark brought an entirely new, unprecedented level of attention and a massive influx of new fans to the league. And that unequivocally is not disrespectful to the incredible players who came before her. That is simply a statement of objective fact. The WNBA, while growing, had been doing so at a relatively slow and steady pace for years. And then Caitlyn Clark emerged and the growth literally exploded. Attendance records were shattered left and right. TV ratings hit all-time, unprecedented highs. Jersey sales went absolutely through the roof, setting new benchmarks. The Indiana Fever, a team that was previously one of the least watched in the league, instantaneously transformed into the most watched team in the entire WNBA. That, my friends, is the undeniable Caitlyn Clark effect. And pretending it didn't happen or trying to diminish its impact doesn't honor the past. It just willfully ignores the present reality. But here's what truly bothers me on a deeper level. The WNBA media, collectively, seems to have developed this incredibly weird and frankly counterproductive habit of absolutely refusing to let any player simply shine on their own merits. Every single time we talk about Caitlyn Clark, someone somewhere feels compelled to interject with, "But don't forget about Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird." And it's like, no, we're not forgetting about them, we're just talking about Caitlyn right now. When we discuss LeBron James, for example, we don't feel the need to interrupt the conversation by saying, "But don't forget about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird." We simply talk about LeBron because that's how sports discourse inherently works. You celebrate the players who are currently doing great things while simultaneously respecting and acknowledging the legendary ones who came before. But in the WNBA, for some inexplicable reason, you seemingly can't do that. You can't just celebrate Caitlyn without also ritually mentioning a dozen other players. And honestly, that constant need to inject caveats is utterly exhausting, because it actually takes away from everyone's moment. When we talk about Caitlyn, we apparently have to talk about Sue Bird. And now, when we talk about Asia, we apparently have to talk about Caitlyn. When for the love of the game, can we just have a conversation about one player without dragging everyone else into it? And then the article descends even further into journalistic absurdity. They wrote, "Despite Clark's missing most of the season with an injury, something Wilson, to be clear, did not cheer." To be clear, did not cheer. What kind of utterly bizarre and utterly unnecessary line is that to include? Who on earth was cheering for Caitlyn's injury? Who was celebrating the fact that she got hurt? Absolutely no one. So why did Time magazine feel the profound need to explicitly clarify that Ass Wilson wasn't cheering for it? That's genuinely insane. That's the exact kind of manipulative line you insert into an article when you are actively trying to manufacture controversy and stir the pot. Because now, people reading that are undoubtedly thinking, wait, was someone actually cheering for her injury? Why did they have to clarify that Asia wasn't? It's ridiculous, it's shoddy journalism, and it's deeply disrespectful to Asia, because instead of allowing the article to focus squarely on her monumental accomplishments, it's suddenly shifting attention to Caitlyn's injury and making sure everyone knows Asia wasn't happy about it. Like, of course she wasn't. Nobody with an ounce of human decency was. That's entirely implied. But Time magazine said it anyway because they wanted to generate maximum outrage. They then transitioned to discussing how viewership for the WNBA was up 5 to 6% during the regular season and postseason, even with Caitlyn sidelined due to injury. And they quote Asia saying, "Sometimes you need a proof in the pudding." The biggest thing for us, and why I was so happy, is that we continued to rise to the occasion. This was just a matter of time for us to really bloom and blossom. And again, that's genuinely great. The WNBA absolutely should be proud of their continued growth and resilience. But let's not for even a second pretend that a 5 to 6% growth is in any way comparable to or the same as what happened when Caitlyn Clark was actively playing. When Caitlyn unfortunately got injured, viewership for her games and for the league as a whole actually plummeted by a staggering 50%. That is not a small drop. That is an absolutely massive, undeniable nosedive, and it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt exactly how critically important she is to the league's overall growth trajectory. But Time magazine conveniently chose to completely omit that crucial piece of context. Instead, they hyper-focused on the comparatively modest 5 to 6% growth and acted as if it was definitive proof that the WNBA somehow doesn't need Caitlyn, which is just patently false and contradicted by the very numbers. The data simply doesn't lie. When Caitlyn plays, people watch. When she doesn't, the viewership significantly declines. That's not disrespectful to anyone else. That's simply an inconvenient reality. And here's another thing. The true testament to star power. Even when Caitlyn Clark was out with an injury, sidelined on the bench, fans were still showing up to Fever games, proudly sporting their Caitlyn Clark jerseys, just to catch a glimpse of her on the sidelines. She was spending literally 2 hours before games signing autographs for a throng of adoring fans. People were actively buying tickets just to be in the same building as her. That, my friends, is legitimate star power. That's real, tangible influence. And pretending it doesn't exist, or trying to minimize it, is simply lying to yourself and your audience. The entire article, frankly, feels like it was meticulously crafted by someone with a clear and distinct agenda. Someone who is determined to push this divisive narrative that Caitlyn's success is somehow inherently bad for the WNBA, that she's stealing attention from other incredibly talented players, that she's erasing the league's vital history. But that's simply not what's happening in reality. Caitlyn's unprecedented success is unequivocally lifting the entire league. More people are watching the WNBA now than ever before in its history. More people are buying tickets to games. More people are purchasing jerseys, supporting the merchandise aspect of the league. And yes, a substantial portion of that is undeniably because of Caitlyn. But that absolutely does not mean that other players aren't benefiting immensely from this newfound attention as well. A'ja Wilson, for instance, is undoubtedly more famous and has a broader reach now than she has ever had in her illustrious career. People who had never watched the WNBA before are now tuning in and seeing A'ja absolutely dominate, witnessing her win MVPs and championships. They're seeing her proudly represent Team USA at the Olympics. And a significant number of those new fans started watching precisely because of Caitlyn Clark. So instead of fostering resentment and being upset that Caitlyn is generating so much attention, perhaps we should all be incredibly grateful that she's bringing legions of brand new fans to the sport as a whole. Fans who, by and large, will stick around and enthusiastically support all the players, not just Caitlyn, but the entire league roster. But instead, the media, frustratingly, keeps pushing this divisive narrative. They keep needlessly pitting players against each other. They keep acting as if Caitlyn's success somehow constitutes a grave threat to everyone else's deserved recognition. And honestly, it's beyond tiresome, because it's not helping anyone. It's not helping A'ja Wilson. It's certainly not helping Caitlyn Clark, and it is definitely demonstrably not helping the WNBA achieve its full potential. Let's also take a moment to really internalize the fact that this article was at its core supposed to be entirely about A'ja Wilson. This was her moment in the sun. She won Athlete of the Year, which is an absolutely enormous honor, a career-defining achievement, and instead of the conversation revolving around her unparalleled greatness, her sheer dominance, her multiple championships, her MVP awards, it has, predictably, become all about Caitlyn Clark. Again, because Time magazine simply couldn't resist themselves. They just had to drag Caitlyn into it. And now, as a direct consequence, A'ja's moment is tragically overshadowed by this manufactured controversy. How is that fair to her in any conceivable way? If I were A'ja, I'd be incredibly annoyed, because I didn't ask for this chaotic narrative. I didn't say a single negative thing about Caitlyn. I simply spoke about my own phenomenal accomplishments and expressed my genuine pride in the WNBA. But now the prevailing headline isn't A'ja Wilson wins Athlete of the Year. Instead, it's Time magazine drags Caitlyn Clark in A'ja Wilson article. And that, without a doubt, is not A'ja's fault. That is entirely the media's fault, specifically Time magazine's. And here's the ultimate, frustrating irony. Caitlyn Clark is now trending on Twitter because of this article, not A'ja. Caitlyn. Because even when it's explicitly not about her, the media consistently finds a way to make it about her. And then, adding insult to injury, they turn around and actually blame her for receiving too much attention. It's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle, and it desperately needs to stop. The WNBA is currently in the midst of an absolutely historic, transformative moment. They are actively negotiating a crucial new collective bargaining agreement. They are commanding more mainstream attention than ever before in their history. They have an unprecedented opportunity to capitalize on all of this incredible momentum and genuinely elevate the league to an entirely new level. But instead of focusing on fostering growth and promoting unity, the media continually creates division. They keep tearing players down instead of building them up, and it's undeniably hurting the league, because here's what could have happened. Time magazine could have simply written a beautiful, celebratory article, highlighting A'ja Wilson's incredible, record-breaking year. They could have eloquently detailed her MVP season, her championship victories, her Olympic gold medal. They could have highlighted her extraordinary skill, her powerful leadership, and her immense impact on the game of basketball. And that would have been absolutely amazing. Fans would have loved it. A'ja herself would have loved it. And the WNBA as an organization would have significantly benefited from the overwhelmingly positive coverage. But instead, they chose to publish an article that deliberately created controversy. They unnecessarily brought up Caitlyn Clark. They fostered a false narrative that made it seem as though A'ja and Caitlyn are in some sort of bitter competition with each other, when they are clearly not. They took what should have been a joyous celebration and cynically twisted it into yet another tiresome argument. And now, predictably, everyone is furious. Caitlyn fans are enraged, A'ja fans are understandably upset, and WNBA fans in general are simply exhausted by this incessant nonsense. And the worst part is that this destructive pattern keeps repeating itself. Every single time there's a positive story about Caitlyn, someone inevitably feels the need to bring up how she's stealing attention from other players. And equally frustratingly, every time there's a positive story about another player, someone, somewhere, has to drag Caitlyn into the conversation. Can we please, for the sake of the sport, just let people have their individual moments of glory? Can we please just celebrate greatness, without the constant need to tear someone else down in the process? When Caitlyn Clark was deservedly named Time Sportswoman of the Year last year, a WNBA owner notoriously quipped that Time should have put the entire WNBA on the cover instead. That comment was utterly ridiculous then, and it would be equally ridiculous now if someone were to say it about A'ja Wilson. But I'm willing to bet that same owner isn't saying anything remotely similar now. Are they? Because fundamentally, it's not truly about fairness or balanced recognition. It's about who's capturing the most attention. And certain people simply cannot stand the fact that Caitlyn is receiving so much of it. But here's the unvarnished truth. Caitlyn didn't ask for any of this external drama or media frenzy. She didn't create these divisive narratives. She didn't ask to become the symbolic face of the WNBA's explosive growth. She simply went out onto the basketball court and played the game she loves with unmatched skill and passion. She set records. She sold out arenas that were previously half empty. She made the game exciting, compelling, and utterly must-watch, and people en masse responded to that electricity. That is not her fault. That is simply what happens when you are an athlete of her exceptional talent and undeniable marketability. And the media absolutely needs to accept that reality. They need to stop trying to tear her down at every single opportunity they get. They need to stop using her name as a convenient tool to manufacture controversy, because all it ultimately does is hurt the league. It makes the WNBA, as an institution, look petty and small-minded. It creates an impression that the league can't actually handle its own success. And ultimately, it drives away the very fans they are trying so hard to attract. People don't want to watch a league where the media is constantly fabricating drama and fostering division. They want to watch great basketball. They want to celebrate truly great players. They want to enthusiastically root for the teams and individual athletes they love and admire. But when every single story becomes about race, or division, or who's getting more attention, it inevitably stops being fun. And when it stops being fun, people quite naturally stop watching. So Time Magazine, if you are listening, please do significantly better. Stop creating controversy where absolutely none needs to exist. Stop needlessly pitting incredibly talented players against each other. And for the absolute love of the game, please let A'ja Wilson have her moment to shine without unnecessarily dragging Caitlyn Clark into it. Because A'ja deserves better. Caitlyn deserves better. And the WNBA, as a whole, deserves so much better from its coverage. Time Magazine transformed what should have been A'ja Wilson's unblemished celebration into yet another tired Caitlyn Clark controversy. And now, as expected, everyone involved is upset and frustrated. The media needs to urgently stop creating division and instead start genuinely celebrating the greatness that exists within the league.